Hi, Lee Phillips again. I want to talk to you for a minute about the ALS clinics. There are a number of ALS clinics around the United States. Christy actually had to go to San Francisco to the Nash Clinic, and Dr. Larson there, who's one of the premier ALS doctors in the United States, he finally diagnosed her, and he was very kind to us. We had the choice of continuing to go to the ALS clinic, and by the way, the MDA made the arrangements and paid for our initial visit. The MDA was very nice to us. I am more impressed with the MDA Association than I am the ALS Association, but the ALS Association is new and it's getting its feet on the ground. I'm not too happy with them. They charged $6 billion, or they made $6 billion. Actually, they made about $120 million in the Ice Bucket Challenge, and Christy was diagnosed just at the time the Ice Bucket Challenge was big. So we did an ice bucket. Harrison Ford did an ice bucket with Paul Cox, the researcher in ALS that is our friend, and we'll talk about him in another ALS video about serine. However, back on the ALS clinics, we could go to the ALS clinic in San Francisco, but it was a lot easier and cheaper and more convenient to go to the ALS clinic at the University of Utah. The ALS clinic in the University of Utah services all of Utah, it services all of Idaho, Montana, Wyoming. It draws from a big area, and we'd see people at the ALS clinic that had driven all the way from Butte, Montana down to Salt Lake, and they do that every quarter. I'm not sure that the ALS clinics are very active in that they can't treat you. There's no treatment for ALS. There are 3 drugs for ALS. We'll talk about them in another series of YouTube. So what do they do for you? Well, I think it's good to go see them. One ALS patient that we know of just said they're a bunch of BS and there's no use going. But they would try and anticipate what Christy would need during the next quarter, and they would line us up with her eye gaze computer. They got the breathing equipment, the BiPAP and the cough assist and the suction device. Actually, we had to ask them for the suction device, and that turned out to be a big deal. There's another YouTube on that as well. But the ALS clinic was good to us. We appreciated them. The doctor who we saw was a young lady who was a very good neurologist and very compassionate. There are other doctors that we're aware of that their spiel is to tell you how to commit suicide. So who knows? It depends totally on what you get for your doctor. They did have a series of people who would come and see us, and they were pretty good. The first day we went in to the Salt Lake Clinic, they said, "Oh, there's a snack cart out in the hall," and I thought, well, why do we need a snack cart? Well, what I didn't realize is for the next 6 to 8 hours, they would run professionals, doctors, through the clinic, and they didn't make us wait hardly at all, maybe 4 or 5 minutes between each one. They were well organized, but they would have the physical therapist and the occupational therapist and the speech therapist and the respiratory, and they'd have all of these people come, and they'd spend about a half hour, 45 minutes with you and see what your needs were. And they'd write them up, and they apparently would go behind the scenes and meet maybe twice during the day when we were there to see what the coordination was for Christy and what they needed to do for her. And they did a good job, I think. Like I say, they don't treat in that there is no treatment. They can't do much. But they help line up the equipment. They get the wheelchair in line when she's going to need a wheelchair, and we had a series of wheelchairs that's in another YouTube video. But they were pretty good. You need to find the ALS clinic in the area where you are, and it might be a fair ways away. I don't know where they all are. When Christy was diagnosed, our research friend gave us a choice of San Francisco or Miami. He thinks those are the two better ALS clinics in the United States, or at least those are the two he's working closely with. And he said we could go to either one of those. We chose San Francisco, and he got us in within about a week. So it might not be that fast for you, but you need to be associated with an ALS clinic somewhere in the United States, and the ALS Association has a list of all those, certainly. You can contact them and find out which one is closest to you. Lee Phillips talking on ALS Clinics.